In today's video, I might actually really piss off my wife, but we'll get into that. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Living in Charleston, South Carolina YouTube channel. I'm your guy, Ryan McHugh, your local real estate guru, dad of 5, and professional mosquito magnet. It's true, they do love me this time of year. But today we are tackling one of the hottest debates in the Lowcountry. No, not whether pineapple belongs on pizza, it doesn't. But Charleston versus Summerville, where should you really move to? And this is a conversation that I have almost with myself on a regular occasion, not because I get people asking me about it all the time, which they do. People always say to me, Ryan, if you could do it all over again, where would you move to? And people always say, they expect me to be like, oh, because Ryan, you live in Summerville, wouldn't you just like move back to Summerville? Maybe. But let's talk about this, okay? I'm gonna give it to you straight with a little bit of sarcasm and a whole lot of honesty, which, I mean, honestly, guys, you can come to expect that from me. If you've been watching my channel for any time now, you know it's sarcasm, dad jokes, and a little bit of truth behind everything.
I'm not afraid to hurt your feelings.
So, we're comparing lifestyle commutes, real estate prices, community vibes, growth projections, schools, amenities, weather, and more to this decision-making process of whether or not it's either Mount Pleasant or Summerville. And yes, I'm gonna get personal and share the McHugh family story and the one spot we wish we would have bought before prices shot through the fuck. It went past the roof, it hit the outer layer of the earth and bounced into the moon. That's how far prices went. Spoiler, it involves ocean breezes, top tier schools, and real estate regret. So buckle up because this is going to be an educational, practical, and hopefully funny enough that you don't realize that you just sat through a half-an-hour real estate video. So let's get into it, shall we?
Give it a chance.
There we were, 2015. My wife and I were like, we are done. We are over with New York. We need to get the hell out of here. We were tired of the snow, the weather, the gray skies, the people. Oh God, the people were the worst part. And I get it. I have a lot of you from Western New York who reach out to me and like, Ryan, we love you because you're from Buffalo and we love like working with other Buffalonians. I get that. There's a lot of really great people there. That being said, there's also a lot of assholes.
Nobody's ever talked to me like that before.
And those are more than the good people, unfortunately. And so I got tired of that. My wife got tired of that. We were just like, get us out of here. And so we did what most people do. We just started researching areas and looking all over the country. Long story short, we did land in Charleston in the Summerville area. And so we worked with a realtor who she was great, but she was a local. She was a native to the area. She hadn't relocated here. And so she knew her area and a couple other areas, but for the most part, she didn't really understand what we were coming from, like the lifestyle, the area. And in hindsight, I actually think we probably should have bought in a different area. And people always say, well, how do you say that, Ryan? Like, you talk so highly of Summerville. Yeah, Summerville is great. It's awesome for families. It's affordable. But 10 years ago, Mount Pleasant was still affordable, and Mount Pleasant's also great, and it's also close to the beaches. And guess what? Your guy Rye here, I love going to the beach. Being 5 minutes from the beach versus 45 minutes from the beach sounds a lot nicer, right? Yeah. So what happened? Well, we ended up landing in Summerville because that's what we thought we could afford at the time. Now, in hindsight, because hindsight's always 20/20, I would have liked the opportunity to really check out Mount Pleasant and look at the areas in there and the different neighborhoods. But we didn't because our agent kind of focused us into Summerville, which in hindsight feels like kind of a huge mistake on our part. But I'll get into a little bit more of that later. So let's talk general overview of Charleston, right? It's historic, it's classy, and it smells like pluff mud and barbecue. It's the heartbeat of the Lowcountry. I mean, you don't even have to picture it. It's got cobblestone streets, pastel houses, and overpriced parking meters. Summerville, on the other hand, is like Charleston's chill cousin who wears Crocs unironically and grows their own tomatoes. It's got that small town vibe, but don't let that fool you. Summerville is growing faster than my kids' Christmas wish list, okay? Mount Pleasant, Charleston, and Summerville are just amazing, but choosing between them, that's where things are gonna get spicy for you. All right, part 2, lifestyle comparison. Mount Pleasant is your big city meets small town. Do you want sushi at midnight? Yeah, Mount Pleasant's got it. Want to do yoga on the beach followed by a mimosa brunch next to someone who's wearing a seersucker and boat shoes? Yeah, Mount Pleasant. Summerville, it's more suburban chill. Think backyard barbecues, Target runs, and neighborhood golf cart parades. It's like Mayberry had a baby with Pinterest, okay? That's kind of how it is.
That's weird.
In Mount Pleasant, your social calendar, though, fills fast. There's festivals, art walks, live music, Cooper River Bridge runs, and you can pet goats while sipping craft beer because that's a thing now. Didn't know it was a thing, but it's a thing now. And honestly, I kind of like it. I kind of like the pet goat thing. However, Summerville leans more into community. Little League, church potlucks, and Home Depot on a Saturday morning like it's a town hall. That's one of the things I think a lot of people like about Summerville is just the small town vibe. You know, Mount Pleasant is hustle and bustle, and it's got a lot, and it's got the beach, it's got so much going on, it's very busy. But Summerville is like its laid back cousin, you know, it's a little bit more laid back, a little further inland, but it also might be a little too laid back for you. And you may want that hustle and bustle of Mount Pleasant. So you have to find that fine line in doing what you're doing, which is figuring out, where do I want to live? You know, what part of the Lowcountry is the best lifestyle for me? So let's talk about daily commute here. Living in Summerville and working in Charleston or Mount Pleasant, welcome to I-26, where dreams go to die. Yeah, totally. Honestly, you could leave at 6:45 in the morning and still show up at work late enough to have to bring everyone donuts. It's the truth. I-26 traffic is the great equalizer. You start the week optimistic. By Wednesday, you're Googling how to build a helicopter and where to land it in Charleston. In Charleston and Mount Pleasant, commutes are technically shorter, but parking can be its own horror movie. Ever parallel park between a horse carriage and a food truck during tourist season? It's like an extreme sport, and you probably should get a medal for it, to be honest. That's probably one of the frustrating parts of living in Mount Pleasant. There's not a whole lot of places to park. Parking can be limited, and if you're going out to a restaurant, a store, you may have to park at the end of the parking lot. It's busier. It's a lot busier in Mount Pleasant than it is in Summerville. And people in Summerville complain like it's so damn busy in Summerville that it's the worst thing they've ever seen. It's like, really? Move to Mount Pleasant. Then come talk to me. All right, moving on to our list. Next up, home prices and value. Summerville gives you more bang for your buck. For the price of a Mount Pleasant condo with a closet that counts as a second bedroom, you can get a four bedroom home, a fenced in yard, and a frog that lives in your mailbox and you name it Carl. Mount Pleasant though? Mount Pleasant, yes, it's pricier, but the equity gains, And here is where I get real, folks. My wife Tasha and I looked at homes in Mount Pleasant years ago, and at the time we said, so too expensive, right? You know, like 10 years ago, Mount Pleasant was like, $425,000 to live by the water? Are you out of your mind? Pfft, huge mistake. You blew it! Those homes now worth millions. Like, it's insane. And they're like 5 minutes to the beach. 5 minutes, guys, to the beach.
All I need are some tasty waves, a cool buzz, and I'm fine.
And it used to be in the 4s. What happened? Now I always say to my wife, I'm like, well, had we bought in Mount Pleasant, the kids would be in a top tier school, we'd be 5 minutes from the ocean, and I might not cry every time I drive by a sold sign in a beautiful home, okay? Those are the pros to moving to Mount Pleasant. But in actuality, we really do love where we live. It's just whenever I'm in Mount Pleasant or I have friends who live in Mount Pleasant and I drive to their neighborhood or I drive to their home, I'm always just in wow of like how beautiful the neighborhood is, how upkept Mount Pleasant is. Mount Pleasant is like the ideal Pleasantville movie area. I mean, everything's kept up. The people are very, very nice. I've had some people be like, oh, well, people in Mount Pleasant are pretentious. And it's like, you're more pretentious for just saying that. You sound like a jealous asshole. Like, honestly, I have respect for anybody who's moved to Mount Pleasant because you got in either early when the time was right, or you're a person from California who thought you were getting a good deal on that $1.5 million home that you bought. And you probably overpaid, more than likely. Most people from California just throw money around and it's just like, oh, we'll be happy to overpay. All right, folks, moving on. Number 5, community vibe. So Mount Pleasant is the city that always has something going on. Even because it's so close to Charleston, you have wine tastings, art shows, oyster roasts, rooftop bars. It's like living inside a travel magazine. And also, every third person is an Instagram influencer, heads up. So when you're walking around Mount Pleasant, you'll see these, and it's always the same girl. It's always, oh, look how beautiful look at this. Look at these brick walls. Oh, that's how, I swear to God, that's how every single Instagram influencer out there acts. And to be honest, coming from the straight white male genre, we're sick of it. Knock it off. It's stupid. We want to go out to dinner and not have to walk past you with a giant straight ass brim hat walking into me because you're not paying attention to where you're going because you're trying to get that perfect sunset shot.
Because I'm going to tell you directly to your face.
No, you don't have to.
No, I don't like you.
Knock it off, okay? Now, let's talk about Summerville, right? Summerville's cozy. It's a know your neighbor kind of friendly. People wave. They'll bring you banana bread when you move in. There's usually a Facebook group for literally everything. And I would also say that's a con. The Facebook groups here will make you want to move out just as fast as you moved in. These people who run these groups are catty as all hell, and they like to keep it that way. And I don't know why, but they're just immature. So stay off the Facebook groups. That's my best piece of advice. The other thing is Summerville just has that environment for a lot of people who are relocating here, who are looking to make fast friends in a friend group. This is kind of a good place for it. Now, Mount Pleasant is culture-rich, fast-paced, and eclectic. Summerville is warm, welcoming, and a little quirky. So pick your poison. All right, let's talk about the growth and future outlook of Mount Pleasant versus Summerville. So Mount Pleasant is expanding up in sideways. New condos, more hotels, historic restorations, but space is limited. And so the county has kind of put a limit on how many new construction homes can be built in Mount Pleasant, which is driving the price through the roof of the area. And that's one thing that you need to keep in mind is that space is limited and those prices are just gonna keep going up. And to be honest with you, it saddens me a little bit because I'm like here like, oh, come on. Please let house prices just dip a little bit. If I can get in there under that price, I would be perfect. And it's like, nope, sorry, Ryan. You need a 5 or 6 bedroom house. That's going to be $2 million. Ha ha ha. But Summerville, it's growing like a teenager in a growth spurt. I mean, new schools, new restaurants, new hospitals, new breweries, and neighborhoods popping up like weeds. And I gotta tell you, I agree with some of the people that are like, hey, we should slow down the developing on like condos, apartments, townhouses, things like that, because that end of it is just going out of here. And I really feel like it's eventually going to affect Summerville's landscape. I mean, if we just keep putting up apartment buildings and apartment buildings and apartment buildings, and then we put in these like, you know, Dollar Generals right down the street, how are we differentiating ourselves from any other area? And we're not. And so that's the part that I'm kind of getting a little frustrated by, is seeing so many like stereotypical places just pop up in Summerville. It's like, come on, let's make it more like Mount Pleasant. Yeah, nobody wants to pay Mount Pleasant prices, but like, hey, let's try and make ourselves better instead of like, yeah, let's put in $5 Generals right here on this street. Like, nobody wants that. I will say this, Summerville is going to be the spot in a few years. It's going to still be affordable, still expanding, and still with a bit of hometown charm. But what do you want? Do you want it in a few years, or do you want it right now? And honestly, the right now is really nice if you can afford the right now price. All right, moving on, part 7, schools and education. So Mount Pleasant has a mix of public, private, and charter schools. Mount Pleasant in particular is home to one of the highest ranked public schools in the state, guys, in the state. If I had $1 for every time I said, man, we should have moved to Mount Pleasant for the schools, I'd have, well, enough to pay for private school. Yeah, it's true. I can't stop saying it, you know, and my wife probably gonna divorce me because she keeps, no.
You're joking, right?
And my wife, she's sick of hearing it because every day I'm like, oh yeah, look at this. Our friends are sending their kid to that awesome school that our kids aren't gonna go to. That's a shame.
This is the worst.
And then you might be like, well, Ryan, what about Summerville schools? Well, the Summerville schools vary. Some are fantastic, some are okay, and some downright meh. Especially with the newer develops planning school expansions. But overall, if schools are a top priority for you, you're gonna wanna do your homework, and you're probably gonna see a lot of the same homework that I've already done, which is why my eyes are on Mount Pleasant. All right, part 8, weather and environment. So in both places, summer is hotter than a jalapeno's armpit. If you're closer to the coast in Charleston, Mount Pleasant, you're gonna get that sweet, salty breeze. Summerville, a bit toastier, but you have more shade in Summerville. More trees, more mosquitoes that apparently have GPS because they know how to find my home. Charleston also comes with flood zones, and especially downtown in the barrier islands. Now, areas like Mount Pleasant, a lot of it can be in a flood zone, but there are a lot of new neighborhoods that are in flood zone X. So be ready to not have to carry flood insurance if you don't need to. But if you have to, you're gonna have to carry it. And maybe add in a canoe, just in case. Just a thought. And since Summerville is known for its tall pines and being inland, it does get less flooding, but make no mistake, it can flood. And I've been to a lot of houses that have flooded in Summerville. But it still has its share of summer storms and pine pollen that could choke a horse. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, we get 2 weeks of what are called pollen season. And it is not like pollen season in any other part of the country. It will literally turn your home and your car yellow. You will be breathing it in for 2 weeks, and you will have the worst sore throats, sneezing, fits, you name it. It's awful. And yet we have to deal with it because it's part of living in Summerville with all the pine trees. All right, part 9, shopping, dining, and entertainment. Mount Pleasant's got high-end boutiques, historic markets, rooftop bars, and 5-star restaurants with plates the size of a coaster, but prices like a car note. No, really. I ate at this one restaurant and it was $85 for just my meal. That was in Mount Pleasant, not downtown Charleston, but in Mount Pleasant. So Summerville has more chains, and more chains. They got chains, more family-friendly spots. So there are some family-friendly businesses and a growing number of cute downtown-style eateries and breweries that are popping up in Nexton, Cane Bay. Those are the areas that are really stepping it up. I haven't seen any areas in like Summerville where they're like, we're gonna redevelop this whole shopping center and make it look beautiful. Unless it's attached to a Cane Bay, a Nexton, or a Carnes Crossroads, you can just plan for it staying the way it is for quite a long time. But if you want Whole Foods and Trader Joe's, Mount Pleasant is your place. If you want Publix and a barbecue joint that serves sweet tea in a mason jar, well, Summerville's got your heart. But just keep this in mind. In my experience, the food scene is a million times better in Mount Pleasant. Summerville is great, but it just doesn't have enough diversity. It doesn't have enough restaurants where you can go in there as a family. I can order steak, my wife can get shrimp and grits, and the kids can get grilled cheese and hot dogs. There's just not enough places like that. And until Summerville gets to that point, it's just not gonna be my favorite place in my heart for places to eat and go shop. Like, that's the kind of life I like, and maybe I'm a little spoiled because coming from New York, we had all that. And so when I go to Mount Pleasant, I'm like, oh, this feels very much like home. Whereas here in Summerville, it's like, okay, I'm waiting for that to grow. I'm waiting for that to come in. Like, when are they gonna put that store there? When are we getting a Trader Joe's? Like, you know, it's just, you kind of gotta wait and hope that it's gonna come. And so for a lot of you who are looking to relocate here, that just might not be what you're looking for. So I totally get that. I align with you on that. And that's where I'm like, hey, you know, Mount Pleasant might have a high price tag, but it's got everything. All right, moving on, part 10, jobs and industry here in Mount Pleasant and Summerville. So if you don't know this, Charleston is actually a hub. We've got Boeing, MUSC, the port, hospitality, tech industries, tech startups, Google. Like if you want access to top employers, Charleston area puts you on the map. And Summerville is catching up as well with new hospitals, logistics companies, remote working jobs. I mean, people are flocking in, and the bulk of the job opportunities, guess what? They're still closer to Charleston and Mount Pleasant. But if you're a hybrid or a remote worker, you've got flexibility. If you're office bound, calculate that drive time, because if you work in downtown Charleston and you live in Summerville, that can be an easy 2-hour daily commute for you. Now, if you live in Mount Pleasant and you have to commute to downtown, it's like a 15-minute commute there and a 15-minute commute home. Again, depending on traffic. But you're not gonna be sitting on the I-26 the entire time. And that's a lot of the big differences that I make when I'm talking to people like, hey, is Mount Pleasant better for me or is Summerville good for me? Which one is the better route? And so that's where I always say to my wife, like, heck, I'm sitting in 45-minute traffic to make it home to Summerville when the Ravenel Bridge is right there. I can literally see my friend's house from the highway. Like, they live right there. Like, they live in Mount Pleasant. I can see their house is right there. And it's like, man, I wish I lived that close and I didn't have this commute. So I get it. A lot of you who kind of have the same problem now, I talk to people that are in metro cities and they're like, Ryan, I commute 2 hours a day now. Like, half an hour would be nothing. And it's like, I get it, but it's still commute time. So if you're someone looking to break free of that commute time, then Mount Pleasant might be the better area. All right, folks, we've come to my final thoughts. I'm not Jerry Springer, but I have some final thoughts about this video. Charleston, Mount Pleasant is more expensive, but it's more vibrant. It's closer to the action, the beaches, and career centers. But your dollar does not stretch even remotely as far, okay? Houses in Mount Pleasant can be double, triple, if not 4 times the cost of a home in Summerville. Again, depending on what you are looking for in size. Now, I have found 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath houses for my clients in $700,000 in Mount Pleasant. If you're someone that's looking to lock in a particular home or neighborhood, particular school zone, or even be somewhere close to proximity to the beach, then you're just gonna have to pay those prices that are gonna stretch you a little bit further outside your comfort zone. And to be honest with you guys, that's the conversation I'm having with myself. I'm like, well, how do I go from having a $1,600 a month mortgage to possibly looking at what could be $4,000, $5,000 a month if I move to Mount Pleasant? And that's not an easy conversation to have with anybody, let alone yourself. So if you really are looking to stretch that dollar, then Summerville is going to be the best place for you. But if you're someone with a little money to burn and maybe you care more about lifestyle than you do about saving money and getting a bigger house, then Mount Pleasant just might be the best option for you. Now, I will say this. Summerville has more space, more affordability, and more communities. But you'll commute more, and your Saturday night might be more mulch and football than mimosa and jazz trio. Do you know what I mean? Like, Saturday nights, you might be just hanging around the house, doing stuff like that, because a 45-minute drive into downtown Charleston to go have dinner and drinks, and then to drive home, a lot of people don't want to make that commute, especially after having a few drinks, you know? So a lot of people will stay close to home, if not stay home. And since Summerville doesn't have a ton of like adult bars, restaurants to go out and party at or hang out at, you find more people being homebodies. And so if that's you, then great, then Summerville might fit the bill. But if you're someone like me who still enjoys going out for drinks and, you know, a little bit of social atmosphere, then Mount Pleasant might be the better option for you. But if you're still undecided, I'm just a phone call away, an email, or an awkward Instagram DM. Listen, if you're going to DM me, make sure I got it, because some of you will DM me and it'll go into like your requested DMs, and I don't ever look at those.
Why are you so old?
So do me a favor. If you DM me, email me, text me, call me, do that as well. I love helping people with every single step of this process. I mean, this is what I signed up to do for the rest of my life, guys. I'm Ryan McHugh, your neighborhood expert. Do me a favor, subscribe, hit the like button, drop a comment below. Tell me which team you're on. Are you Team Mount Pleasant or Team Summerville? And remember, wherever you land, the Lowcountry is lucky to have you as long as you adapt and you wave with all 5 fingers. You say hello to your neighbor. You say yes, sir, no, ma'am, that kind of thing. If you can't get into that lifestyle, I hear California's recruiting. Until next time, folks, welcome to your new home in the Lowcountry. Remember, reach out 843-226-5535. Again, Ryan McHugh, your neighborhood expert. If you want to see available properties now, go to my website, www.buyfromrye.com. And again, days, nights, weekends, and holidays, I got your back when it comes to buying a home right here in the Lowcountry.